That's my little Pajero car, and I'll show you part of my weekend adventure. So I took the wheel out, not to waste time showing the process how to take a wheel out. Step number one, you use this tool that no, I'm not one of those boring with BS, but here is something that you may want to see. And this is not an instructional video, it's just a way how I got back home. Since I have the car here on the pavement, that means I got back home with, okay, where is the caliper and the brake? No brake. So I made it back home. 3 brakes, or 3 brake systems active in 3 wheels, but this one no brake. So what happened, I drove for about 2 weeks with a warped brake disc. Now every time I pressed the brake pedal, I could feel some shake on the car. It was getting warped, but sometimes it was getting better. I tried to order parts from Mitsubishi, because I go with original parts, and they had only one. The dealership had only one in stock, and the second one for the other side, they said it'd take about 6 weeks. So I said forget about it, but I'm not going to order aftermarket parts. So I could not find the local equivalent parts, so one of the stores said, yeah, we can order for you, take a couple of weeks. And I said, I'll keep using it, maybe I'll make some time to order the parts. And so I went for a trip, and coming back home on the highway, I could hear some loud rattling noise. I said, wow, what the heck is going on? So I pulled aside. So I was driving about 90 an hour, not very fast, because I had a kayak on the top of the car. So I got out, I thought maybe the kayak is something wrong with the kayak, or something is loose. So I got in a bit of a panic, and nothing wrong with the kayak. Then I thought, ooh, something is at the wheel. Looking, and nothing to see. And I took a side back road or something like that, and I'm driving slowly. And I made it back home around 2 a.m. And now the second day, I thought to take the car and look at it, and I'm using the brake, and the car would not stop. So I had to use the handbrake, or the parking brake, and engine, first gear, and I left it on the parking stall. But last night I decided to do some work on it. So this is a job that I've done as an emergency, so I can move the car somewhere else, getting closer to the shop. I never been towed, and I want to maintain the same tradition. Hopefully I will never get towed with this car. And so I thought I would go to the mechanic, but what I did, I ordered parts, but in the meanwhile I drove this one maybe 20 kilometers or something, and I drove it 3 a.m. So what I did here, I took this one out. So you have to use 2 bolts, 2 M8. I don't have to show you what M8 is, but metric 8. Every time I work on this discs, I fill these 2 holes with copper grease. It's an anti-seize grease, prevents the water to sneak in and prevents this one to get rust. So now it was easier for me to insert 2 bolts here and use some, it's called a freeze out, but you can use different things, even WD-40. Some people heat up this area. I sprayed inside here, but also there is a hole right here, so I positioned the wheel with a hole up, sprayed inside, so the liquid got in the area and penetrated and destroyed some of the structures that are made by the rust, right? So then I use a little bit of metal and I knock this one around, then tighten one at a time, little bit, then knock again all around nicely, and I managed to pull this one out. And guess what? Of course I knew what happened, because when I opened this one I saw what happened. I thought, ooh, the lucky me, how come I was able to get back home with this thing split in half. So if you know brakes, this is part of the vent system, the cooling system. They're like air holes that with the rotation of the wheel, this helps to cool the disc, the braking surface, right? But because of so much rust here, the rust ate all this material and it left just a very weak structure. So taking this one to the machine shop would not help at all. And I'm showing you what can happen if you drive with a warped disc, or if you take it to the machine shop and the machine shop charge you $10 or something like that, but they don't tell you, or they don't remove the rust to see how much healthy structure you still have here. So if you see lots of rust coming out when you knock it, let's say you have this one mounted and you knock, and if you see lots of rust coming out, most likely you need to replace that one, because it's not going to last you. And even they fix the warping after a while during the hard braking or on a highway. Heating up this material is going to soften the metal, and you'll get it warp again, and it's dangerous. And don't do it, just replace it. So I took this one out, but in order to take this one out, like I mentioned, you have to loosen this disc by using those two metric 8 bolts, but also you have to take out the caliper assembly. So you take it out, otherwise you can't take this one out because the bolts are in the way. And what I thought at the time, I thought I need to block somehow the fluid, the brake fluid circuit, the fluid flow to the caliper, I thought. But because I wanted to prevent the caliper pistons to rub against this thing and come out, because now if you don't have the rubbing surface, the braking surface, the pistons will come out every time you apply the brake. And then I thought maybe I could disconnect the brake line, but I don't have a correct fitting. Let's say it's a road emergency and I don't have much on my tool bags and on the back of my truck, where I keep some parts and loose bolts and stuff. So I didn't have any fittings to work on. Also, if you try to squeeze this line to prevent the fluid flow, yeah, it won't do it, because it has some sort of a metal mesh inside. It's pretty hard, like it's flexible, but you can't really squeeze it. It's made in a way that squeezing it will not stop the brake fluid going to the caliper. So it's a safety thing. So what to do? I do no fitting to prevent the fluid to get here. So originally I took the caliper out, and if you see here, let me see, the two brake pads, the old ones, I kept it apart, and I inserted some pieces of metal that I could find. So I thought to insert two big nuts, but I had only one. And finally I found one of the pulleys. I had a pulley in my car. I took the pulley out, and now the pulley is between the brake pads and is acting as a spacer. So it's kind of a mimicking the brake disc to keep to prevent the pistons to come out. So now I can press the brake and the pistons are just squeezing the spacers that I've used there. So now I had to hang the caliper assembly. I had to hang it somewhere, but since the wheel needs some clearance, when you turn the wheel left and right, is going to hit these parts here. So it's not much room. I tried to put it here on top first, but the wheel, the fat wheel was rubbing against this thing. Of course I did not drive like that, I tested first, but the caliper assembly is pretty big. So I found that if I keep it on the side, I can still turn, but I cannot fully turn because the brake line is too short. So anyway, so this is a contraption. It's unsafe, but it got me, like I said, maybe 20 kilometers till here, where I'm able to leave the car for a couple of days. Today morning I placed an order for aftermarket parts because I don't have the patience to wait for original Mitsubishi parts. Maybe next time, but I hope I will get the parts by Friday night. I could install the parts so I can take the car for my next weekend adventure, hopefully. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, so don't ever make contraptions like that. This is to help your creativity in case you are going off-road and you have this problem, right? So it's not something that you should do while you are in the city. You just get the tow truck, take you to the mechanic, or park the car somewhere, go get the parts, come back, fix it. But for this particular car, the parts are not available locally, and like I said, I had the kayak on top of the truck. I had to get back home. Luckily the car got me back home, and I'm thankful. Then I had to do some road emergency so I can avoid taking the bus. It's still COVID season here in Canada. It's not big of a deal like before, but I didn't want to take the bus because it's not only one bus, it's a bus, a train, another bus, and yeah, it takes me an hour or something. So I made it back to where I wanted, and I wanted to share the experience. And I know I'm trying to encourage people to use the brain, be creative, and don't get stuck somewhere far away off-road. At least check your car before you go, see what happens. See you later, bye-bye.